Hey Kyle, Coach Brew here. Your Uncle Brian put me in touch with you, and he was telling me you're an amazing filmmaker. You've done some incredible work with commercials and are interested in transitioning to feature-length films. I, first of all, loved the work you did with the Under Armour campaign. That was kick-ass, really impressive. And I just want to shoot you this word of encouragement about making that transition. Perhaps you've heard of an actor by the name of Will Smith. In an interview, I remember hearing him say, when he was asked what the key to his success was, a poor kid from Philadelphia with no connections in Hollywood, how'd you make it big? He credited his success to his ridiculous work ethic, and specifically a quote stuck out in my mind. He said, "The only thing that's distinctively different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill. You might have more talent than me, you might be smarter than me, but if we both get on a treadmill together, one of two things is going to happen. Either you're getting off first or I'm going to die." And is that a simple answer? Yes. But there's some real wisdom on this analogy that Will Smith gave in the interview, because well before the Fresh Prince was fresh, or Prince, or even rapping in West Philadelphia, back in the 1940s, there was a group of researchers at Harvard University, and they just decided they wanted to study the characteristics that help people live healthier, happier, more successful lives. And what they did was they gave 130 college sophomores a 5-minute treadmill test. Simple? Yeah. 5 minutes? But here's the thing. They made it so steep that the test was actually impossible. Between the incline and the pace, they made it impossible to complete. But they didn't tell the participants that. These guys were all flying blind as far as that went. But here's what happened. They found that all these participants fell into one of two categories. Number one, they quit when it got hard. And that's what most of them did. Most of them tapped out a minute and a half into this test. It was just, quote, too hard. Well before even 4 minutes. There may be a couple who made it to the 4-minute mark, but they just said they couldn't do it and they just jumped off. And then there's group two. The select few who just refused to come off of the treadmill for the whole 5 minutes. They simply wouldn't quit no matter what. Some of them fell, got back on, collapsed on the treadmill, slid off, jumped back on, and kept going. And here's the interesting thing. These researchers were ahead of their time. They knew back then this wasn't just a fitness test. It really correlated with how well the subjects were willing to push themselves or just not quit when circumstances got tough. So an interesting thing happened in the follow-up. Every 2 years, the researchers reached out to these 130 guys, and they were all guys, regarding their income, their career advancement, number of sick days they took, their social activities, satisfaction at work, marriage, and also use of psychiatric medication. And they compiled all this information to gauge an estimate of their overall psychological adjustment as adults post-college. And it was almost like these researchers were prophets, because 40 years after the study, another psychologist came along, this guy, Dr. George Valiant. And we're all in this story. Stick with me here, Kyle. We're all in this story. And what Dr. Valiant found was that he decided he was going to follow up with every single one of those 130 participants in that experiment. And as he looked back on that study, he found the number one factor in those that led a successful life was simply their ability to refuse to give up when things got tough. No matter how tough things got, they refused to give up. And coincidentally, the students who participated in that experiment, who had the greatest income, the most career advancement, still were in healthy marriages, and had the lowest rates of depression, they all shared one thing in common. It wasn't IQ. It wasn't that they were blessed with talent or had superior genetics. It was simply work ethic. simply refusing to quit. It was all the guys that didn't get off the treadmill. And I think that, that test has less to do with fitness, and it actually has everything to do with how hard you're willing to push yourself and persevere when you want something. How bad do you want it? And so really it turned out Will Smith was onto something. We're all in that story because we're all on a treadmill, especially right now. It's 2020. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're all on a treadmill of sorts, personally and professionally. And my message to you is, like I said, we're all in that story, but you have to be willing to persevere, to stick with it when things get boring, when things get tough, when we're tired, when we quote, don't feel like doing something. We need to not consult with our feelings and keep pushing forward, move forward no matter what. So I think when you do that, you wire your brain to think differently. You wire your brain to be someone that sees things through to their logical conclusion. So I just want to encourage you, to stay on that treadmill, surround yourself with people who are on the same mission that you're on, and that's contagious, my friend. I also look forward to reaching out and getting in touch with you real soon. But my message for you today is stay on the treadmill, Kyle. You're on a great path. You're doing amazing work. Stick with it. Thanks.